I want to understand and ask you, one earth, one family, one future is the theme. Vasudev Kutumbakam. Can this world think as one? Is it possible?
Well, thank you so much for having me this evening to you, and hello to all those on the panel. To answer your question, yes, the idea of one earth, one family, one future, it's a beautiful vision that speaks to our shared humanity. The gentleman who just spoke before me, namaste to you, is right. There's a beautiful relationship, an important relationship that the United States and India shares. And while the world is divided in many ways, I believe the vast majority of people desire peace, they desire prosperity, and a sustainable future for all. And I think with good faith efforts, open communication, and really just a willingness to understand different perspectives, consensus can really emerge. But it really requires patience and compassion and viewing others as fellow global citizens rather than adversaries. There will always be complex geopolitics at play, but if we focus on our common hopes and aspirations rather than our differences, that can help leaders find solutions. And that's the whole point of the gathering of world leaders here these next several days for the G20 summit, is to find those common hopes, find those common aspirations so that we can make the world a better place together.
How is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, how much of credit would you want to give that? Because you've met him, you've seen him at close quarters, even at the June state visit.
Yes, the Prime Minister has shown strong leadership in bringing India to the global stage. It was such an honor to certainly perform for the Prime Minister and my country and India and during the Prime Minister's official arrival to the United States in June. But I tell you, the Prime Minister has shown strong leadership in really bringing India to the global stage. He's advanced India's development and really navigated complex debates over issues like trade and terrorism and technology. His initiatives, the government of India, the initiatives of Make in India and Digital India have really spurred economic growth. I hope that the Prime Minister certainly continues to pursue inclusive growth policies that really lift up the marginalized. I think that he has a personal understanding of that coming from his humble beginnings. But I hope that he continues to lift up the marginalized and demonstrate to the world that economic progress can coincide with social justice. I think that's a very important point. India has much to offer as a leader, emphasizing ethics and spirituality in economic development alongside technological advancement. So these next few years, the Prime Minister's role at the G20 really provides the opportunity to strengthen India's diplomatic ties and showcase its influence on the world stage. I'd say most of all, my thoughts about the PM and the leadership there, it's the PM's humility and his rise from very humble beginnings that really sets him apart from many world leaders. I understand now, with my intimacy certainly with India and the Indian communities across the world, I understand why India calls the PM a man of the people, because he truly is for the people, by the people, because he's one of the people. He has come from humble beginnings. He's certainly his own journey and track record has really proven to be the Indian dream. And so I believe that's why people call him a man of the people. And he should always keep that. If I were to encourage the Prime Minister, who I call a new friend, encourage him to keep that sentiment.
Well, let's hope he is hearing or this message does get across to him. But so far, he seems to be walking on the same path. But let me ask you, how easy or difficult is it going to be to get consensus at a time of conflict? Because India is friends with multiple nations who are at conflict with each other. Have you been in a situation like that? How easy or difficult is it to manage, to get things going, to get two people who don't see eye to eye on the table?
Well, conflict is always going to be present when you have different opinions and ways to approach. I think what's really important to understand that conflict always or often hinders development and it spreads human suffering. And I think if that understanding comes to the table, then it's easier for world leaders to really sit down immediately and approach what can we do together to help all people. You see this conversation certainly going on with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. how conflict hinders development and spreads human suffering. And there's always going to be different interests. With open minds, it should be possible to make progress on shared goals like economic growth and food security and energy security. But leaders have to be prepared to listen and engage respectfully and recognize the legitimacy of different viewpoints. It's okay to sit at the table and have different viewpoints. We just have to respect that and come to the table with an understanding that we want what's best for all people. And I just think that good faith right now is what's necessary. It's a negotiation tool and key. It's important to have that right now. I feel that coming from my position as an artist, I feel that cultural diplomacy can play a larger role right now as countries are working together. It can certainly play an important role here at the G20 summit the next couple of days. Cultural diplomacy, it centers us on our shared commonalities and what we can achieve together. And so I think the way that culture has been magnified, certainly as the G20 summit has started, I think those aspects can play a very large role in us understanding each other, coming to the table in the midst of differences.
See, I'm a fan and your voice is magic. So I'm going to request you to turn that magic on, please, here on the show tonight to encourage leaders to pick consensus over conflict, if I may, Mary.
Well, before I sing, I certainly want to say this, and thank you again for having me on. My challenge to the leaders of the G20 is just to focus on our common humanity. Seek to understand before asking to be understood. Let prudence guide our discussions, not pride. Let wisdom and compassion, care, especially for marginalized people and women, be at the forefront. I want to say too, there's a big conversation certainly happening the next couple of days, and that certainly is the African Union becoming a permanent member of the G20 summit. And I think it's a great opportunity for the Prime Minister, for India, and for countries gathered to show that sense of humanity. The Prime Minister is right in this move to encourage the inclusion of the African Union as a permanent member in the G20, especially because Africa, if I can be candid, all of the G20 countries are benefiting from, their economies are thriving from trade and economic engagement from Africa. So it's only fair to have a continent at the table that truly serves the world. And so I hope that the G20 will move forward in including the African Union as a permanent member. But to end this segment with a song, one of my favorite songs that I think certainly speaks to inclusion and equality and how we can all come together to heal the world. It's a song that everybody knows. And the words say, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. We have to heal the world together and make it a better place for everyone.
Absolutely, and a prayer for Michael Jackson too. But in this case, for you, Mary Millben, what an amazing voice, and thank you so much.